Well, over in South America, the groups of the 2024 Copa Libertadores are set. The 8 groups of 4 teams were drawn last night, with play set to begin in April. Last year's champions Fluminense, they are in Group A. Group B features 3 teams that didn't participate in last year's tournament, and Barcelona, who dropped out of the group stage. Over in Group C, the strongest finished last in their group in 2023. Group D includes Botafogo, who finished 5th in Brasileirão Série last season. 2022 Copa Libertadores champions Botafogo, they're in Group E. 2023 semi-finalists Palmeiras landed in Group F. Group G features 2023 Argentine Copa de la Liga champions, Rosario Central, and Argentine club River Plate landed in Group H with Uruguay's Nacional. And for more on this, let's welcome in our friend Mbizo Mzamane, our Brazilian football correspondent, to join us. Mbizo, hello, it's good to see you. Let's talk about the biggest prize for the winner to be $23 million. Is this a reflection of how much the tournament has continued to grow, seeing this kind of prize money?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's a trend that's being followed in all of football, isn't it? Every competition seems to have more money in it. And of course, the growth of the game has continued in South America, including in leagues that aren't necessarily considered traditional powerhouses, such as your Peruvian leagues, Paraguayan leagues, that have more and more teams that are competing for this prize. And such the prize money has risen. So as the sponsorship has also expanded across many of the competitions. And so this is certainly a demonstration of the fact that the game is growing, at least monetarily, in the South American landscape.
Yeah, it sure is. It's been exciting to see, hasn't it? Let's just take a look at how the tournament works, in case you're wondering, and how the format will go for teams to be able to advance through the competition. Here's a look at some of the rules. The top 2 teams in each group advance to the round of 16. The third place teams, they slot into the Copa Sudamericana knockout round playoffs. The winner qualifies for the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. The final takes place on November 30th in Buenos Aires. And as we just said, the winner gets that big prize money. In terms of what it means for the Brazilian teams, though, there are 7 Brazilian teams in the competition group stage. And Mbizo, I suppose starting with the defending champions Fluminense, how do you see these Brazilian sides stacking up?
Well, it's certainly a mixed bag. I think some of these teams will believe that they can go through, and some of them are looking at a slightly more challenging forays, especially for those who have had some extended absences, such as Grêmio and Botafogo as well. I think Grêmio has been out of the competition for something like 4 years, whereas Botafogo has been out for something like 7 years. So with Fluminense, I think they are facing some powerhouses, traditional powerhouses of South American football, who are multi-winners of their domestic competition at home. Colo-Colo, Alianza Lima, these are some extremely traditional teams in the South American landscape. But of course, Fluminense is the defending champion, and that they will believe that they can continue their form and go through. All of these teams in their group are not doing particularly well domestically, so that will put Fluminense at ease at the very least. However, some of the other teams do face sterner challenges, as I mentioned, like Grêmio and Botafogo. I do expect Flamengo as well to somewhat cruise through, despite the fact that they'll be in some very challenging areas. In Bolivar, for example, up at 3,640 meters from sea level, as well as when they go to Bogota in Colombia, same idea, very high altitude, which obviously makes the ball travel faster because of less wind resistance, and as well as the players having difficulty breathing. So there's quite a lot of different bags here. Atlético Mineiro should find themselves in a position to go through. Again, all these groups are very, very even, and it is Copa Libertadores, so anything can happen.
Botafogo is a team that I want to touch upon for a moment, Mbizo, just because of what ended up happening last year with their fall. They still make it into this tournament. How do you think they are going to be able to perform at the highest level in this tournament going in?
Well, that's certainly going to weigh on them, isn't it? That capitulation, historic capitulation that we saw last year. And they will definitely feel that they have some demons to exorcise. As I said, they haven't been in the tournament for 7 years. So that is also something else that will play a factor. They are facing, I think, the current champion of Copa Sudamerica in LDU in the Ecuadorian capital first. And again, there's some altitude issues that they're going to have to face there. And they also face the current Colombian champion, who won Torneo Finalización in 2023 as well. So they do have some difficult matches, and so is their final match against the Peruvian champions, Universitario. But look, they are a good team. They play good football, and of course they are in the strongest league probably in South America, so they will believe in themselves to go far. I mean, of course, their capitulation was very late last year, and for the rest of the year, they actually played quite well. So they will really believe that they can go through, but it's going to take a lot of mental strength. It's going to take a lot of emotional fortitude as well to really put what happened behind them and try to have a good campaign.
Poppy ran through the groups going into this tournament. The group of death, obviously, is one that everyone focuses in on. I particularly think that there's one individual group, and I'm talking about Group F, that could make a strong case to be the group of death. Where do you see the most difficult group of all these?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I looked at that group and I thought to myself, this might be it. But I have to remain steadfast and say that Fluminense's group, I think Group A is the powerhouse, is the most difficult group, the group of death. And that is really not necessarily on the basis of these teams' performances in past Libertadores, but again, because these teams are some of the biggest winners, the most winningest teams in their domestic leagues, despite the fact that they're not doing so well domestically at this current juncture in time. These are some traditional clubs with incredible histories. I mean, boasting something like 25 titles and so on and so forth, for example, for Allianz Lima. So I think this is going to be a very, very difficult group for Fluminense, especially if they're not playing 100% the entire time. But it's a difficult group for every one of these teams. And at any point in time during the course of the season, they could wake up and demonstrate why they are some of the traditional powerhouses of the South American game. So that, for me, Group A, group of death.
Okay, looking forward to watching Group A. I want to go back to the Brazilian teams for just a second, Mbizo, because when we saw 7 of the Brazilian teams that have the potential in this competition, how many of them do you see advancing and going through?
I would say there's about a 50% chance for these teams. So I said that Fluminense would advance. I think Flamengo, Palmeiras would advance. Of course, they've demonstrated that this is routine for them the last couple of seasons. I think Atlético Mineiro, who's also a giant of the Brazilian game, especially in recent seasons, I think they can make it through what is also a difficult group in Group G. But for me, I think that Sao Paulo, Grêmio, and Botafogo will struggle, and it's principally because of their recent absences from the competitions, coupled with their struggles, of course, in the Brasileirão itself. I think the combination of those factors may see them go home early, but I do not say that with any 100% certainty. I think it's important to say for all my friends who support these teams here in Brazil.
And Mbizo, we touched upon the money that goes to the champion of this tournament, but if you think about it, the larger picture, whoever wins this tournament has the opportunity to join up with the expanded Club World Cup here in the United States. Just how important is that for whichever club comes away with the victory?
I mean, absolutely every team will want to usher in this new era, isn't it? Aside from this money, as you mentioned, it's not only the money that they'll receive from this cup, but the notoriety across the planet, which will bring in its own proceeds in normal footballing operations, jersey sales, and obviously TV rights and so on and so forth. So especially in South America, where the bulk of teams' money comes from player sales, they would really, really do well with some of this prize money coming in from these competitions. And so everybody will absolutely be vying for that spot, despite the fact that not only the champion of Libertadores earns a lot of money, but at the various stages, there's been an increase in the prize money for making it to certain levels, as well as money for each individual win in the group stages. Despite all of that, of course, they will be looking to get some of the benefits and the windfall, as I discussed. And so they'll be pushing really, really hard for that.
Wow, good stuff, Mbizo. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for having me, folks. It's a pleasure as always.